Hey, everybody, welcome back to Before the Lights podcast, the show that tells you how they made their mark. She has appeared on TV and film such as The Holy Man with Eddie Murphy, one of the top models in the 70s and 80s, a runway and fashion supermodel that has been on over 500 worldwide magazine covers such as Sports Illustrated, Vogue, Glamour, Cosmopolitan, and many, many more. She's a New York native, spokesperson, TV host, author, and speaker. Please welcome to the show, Kim Alexis. Kim, welcome to Before the Lights.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
I am excited. You grew up in the suburbs of Buffalo, started swimming at a young age, and then swam competitively through high school at Lockport High School.
Yep.
Looking back at that swimming portion of your life and that competitiveness, what did that do for the rest of your career?
Probably a lot. I think what we do when we're young does form us. So I found out pretty quickly that I'm very competitive. I don't give up. I'm a hard worker. And obviously that had to carry into working in New York City, because I look back at all the tear sheets and covers and different ads that I did, and I realized, oh my gosh, no wonder I'm tired. I worked really hard.
It's hard work to swim in a pool competitively as well. So I can see how that can correlate to one another.
Yeah. Yep.
When did you start going, at what age, to modeling school? When did that kick off for you?
I was 17. I was in my senior year in high school, and I was accepted in college at University of Rhode Island in their pharmacy program in the fall of my senior year. So I still had some time, and I thought, okay, I'll just be responsible. I didn't want to have to rely on my dad. So I thought I'll just make some extra money so that I can have a little bit of independence. And so to be in modeling and to be able to work in Buffalo, we had to go through this little, as I would call it now, charm school. They called it then a modeling school, but literally they taught you how to walk and how to conduct yourself and how to sit in a chair properly. So it was almost a throwback from like the 50s and 60s.
Is it true then, in the summer of 78, that you were on your first cover of Bazaar in just 4 days?
Yeah.
That seems crazy.
My birthday is in mid-July, and so I waited till I turned 18. I'd graduated high school. I waited till I turned 18, and then I said, okay, now I'll go to New York. Well, my first job was for Italian Bazaar in Rome, and then going on to Paris, and it was shooting the haute couture, which was coming off of runways at all times of the day and night, and then Italian Bazaar would get the clothes at a certain time and have us models on standby and race out and go do the shots with the photographers. And so we were working like 24 hours a day. And, I guess it was a big thing to get the cover. I was green as could be. I didn't have any idea what I was doing. And somehow I got the cover shot within 4 days. And so then it takes 3 months to come out. So I had November 1978 for Italian Bazaar.
Were you then put in pharmacy school in the rearview mirror and you were just full bore going into modeling now?
Well, I gave the school like a year, so I was going to revisit it within to start that next year. And of course, you're getting all these reports from your friends in high school, like they're off and drinking pizza and beer and having a good time. And I'm like pounding the pavements in New York and working all hours of the day and night and totally eating stupid, dumb meals that I thought were, so nutritious or I can't eat type thing, which I hated because I'd been swimming for so long. Mm-hmm. So I used to have this huge appetite, and to be able to not eat, I was miserable.
I can only imagine. In 83, you were the face of Revlon, and you became one of the most recognizable faces in America. How did this whole thing transpire that you got hooked up with Revlon?
I probably won't know all the ins and outs of that, but they looked at what I was doing. I replaced Lauren Hutton. So it was for Ultima 2, and they really wanted me to be interested in going into the acting career like Lauren did, because back then we didn't have social media. So one thing, being good at one thing, helped another, but not through social media. So we didn't have hashtags and things like that. So to be a a movie star, but then to be known as the Ultimate 2 girl was kind of the way to promote Ultimate 2 through acting. But I realized really quickly that I was way too practical for that and not, that wasn't my strength.
Did you know at the time what that all meant when you were with Revlon, or you were just working?
I was so busy working and I would have my head down. Sometimes I would get offered 14 jobs a day. So I could pick and choose which jobs, back when things were hot. Yeah, which jobs to take. And so I was so busy day to day just working. You don't have an idea how you impact other people. I mean, I hear now from people, oh, you know, I looked at your face and I studied your makeup and I wanted to be like you. And I had no idea.
Do you remember then at that time when maybe somebody said something to you and you were like, wow, I'm making an impact, or some of these people are seeing me everywhere?
Yeah. And some of it was when that phrase supermodel started coming out. And I'm like, what's a supermodel? And they're like, well, you are, my dear. And I'm like, what? Me? And they're like, you, Christy Brinkley. I remember they're saying, yoking our two names together. And I'm like, wow, like, oh, I didn't know. So I don't know. It was just a phrase, but it stuck.
Speaking of that, something just popped in my head. What do you think of that term, supermodel?
I think it is way overused nowadays. Oh. Everyone claims to be a supermodel. It's like, I don't know. To me, it's apples and oranges. The phrase for me meant that you were good in many areas of the modeling business, including the swimsuit issue. You were good on runway. You were good. You did covers. You did ads. And you did Sports Illustrated, and you were able to conduct and speak and do interviews. So to be able to influence other people way back in the early 80s. So there weren't a lot of girls that fit that category that could be nationally known. And so the term now is really loosely used, in my opinion.
You mentioned Sports Illustrated swimsuit issues. You were in 6 of them. Is there any of those that stick out to you for one reason or the other of the 6 that you're like, oh, I really like this one, or I don't like that one at all?
No, there was just one shot with me on a runway with a plane flying behind me and I'm running. I was in a one-piece kind of racing looking suit. And so I liked that because literally the next week I went home and ran the New York City Marathon.
Oh, that is awesome.
Where I was in training, but literally the plane was going up behind my head and they're like, just look at me, you know, just keep running and look at me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a plane like shoom, right over the back of me.
I give you credit. I'm a runner myself. I've done half marathons and I tip my cap to all you people that have done full marathons. It's an accomplishment for sure.
Well, I did it as a way to prove that I was an athlete because I was never super skinny. I just never was a Twiggy type person. And so you have to work with what you've got. But I felt like I needed to prove something because it was a way. Sometimes people love to poke at you to knock you down instead of celebrating who you are. And some of the women would be like that, where if they hurt me or tried to knock me down, they felt better about themselves. And so I learned that young on, but it was hard to take those words and not try to just be the best I could. So I thought, I'm athletic. I'm just going to start running. And this is a good way to prove it. And I'd met Fred LeBeau, who was at that point the head person at the New York City Marathon, the Roadrunners Club. And so he was such a great guy. And he asked me to be the spokesperson. So I literally traveled around and went on all the news shows and promoted the race before I ran it.
Are you still running these days?
I just got benched. I've got torn meniscus in a knee and mini fractures. And so if I run even 3 miles, I'm limping for days and in such pain that I'm now a low impact girl on the bike. And I'm trying to find new things, but I literally let it go until I found out what the MRI results were. And now I feel like I'm a little behind and need to catch up and out of shape. And I'm like, darn, I hate being out of shape.
I understand.
To get back into it. We have to wrap this up because I've got a hot yoga class.
I was doing some research. One of the things that really stood out to me that I was really happy to see was that you stuck to your values and your morals and refused to pose nude. Did anybody try to pressure you into that, or did you just absolutely say, I'm not doing that?
Well, yeah. So you'd be in a booking and all of a sudden, especially the French, they'd say, darling, take your top off. And I'd be like, no. And they're like, but it's art. It will be so beautiful and da, da, da. And I'm like, no. And so a couple times I literally had to walk out. And when you're a model, I mean, at least for me, part of what makes you a good model is being a people pleaser, because you're trying to give the client what they want. And so I was torn between giving a client what they wanted and doing what I thought, that's going too far. So literally a couple times you've got a room full of angry people and you're walking out of a booking because they changed the rules. So I didn't walk into something knowing it was going to be I didn't do Victoria's Secret. I didn't do the lingerie. That wasn't necessarily a strength of mine. I didn't enjoy, I like being more natural and athletic. So, but if they changed the rules, I felt I had the right to leave.
I agree. And I'm sure, did they try and do repercussions and stop you from getting other jobs?
Good luck with that. I worked anyway. So you get to a point, and you know what? If me walking out meant that I never modeled again, I would have gone on and been something else. So what I teach young girls is to always have something else to fall back to. Don't ever be so desperate that you have to do a certain job, or you have to go on the casting couch or please somebody in some bad way just to get the job. Because if you have to do that, then it affects you later on. So I was always willing. They knew I was no nonsense. I was just going to leave because I didn't need it that badly. I'll go be successful somewhere else.
And you have been, not just in modeling, but you've talked a couple of times about staying in shape and being an athlete. After modeling, what was life like for you as being thought of as a supermodel and people having an image in their mind of what a supermodel may or may not be, and then you trying to stay in some side of shape that you want to be in?
Yeah, well, part of that was aging, and we aged, you're kind of aged out at between 25 and 30. So I looked around, and thank God my parents had raised me. You can always do anything you put your mind to. So I thought, okay, well, I have a ticket to trying new things. And so I've never really been afraid to try new things. Even if I start out bad, at least I started and at least I tried. So I ventured off into broadcasting. I was choosing an agency that had literary broadcasting, spokesperson, a bunch of stuff, a speakers bureau with William Morris years ago. And even before I signed with them, they asked me to go to Good Morning America just to do an interview. So I sat down with this one woman in her office at Good Morning America, and I'm sitting talking to her. And so and I wasn't quite sure. And at the end, she says, so do you want the job? And I said, what job? And she says, well, you could be fashion correspondent. And I said, sure, I'll try it. She says, good. You're on live tomorrow at 7:48 in the morning. And I went, oh my gosh.
Wow.
So I remember doing it. It was with Charlie Gibson. Joan London was off on maternity leave. And this was in 1987. So I'm 27 years old. And I literally had that job for 3 years where I would travel, and I was living in Florida. So I'm working in New York City. I had a child at this point. My first son was born in 86. And so I was going back and forth and had to hire nannies and flying with the kids and strollers and weekly. So I don't know how I did it, but I did it.
You did it. You found a way to do it, as most all of us do.
Yeah, we just posted an old photo or old video of me on air with Charlie Gibson, and just to see the haircut and the big earrings that I had and the way I talked with Charlie Gibson, it's funny to look back on that stuff. So
looking back in 93, you're on the last episode of Cheers with Mike Ditka. I understand you still have the script cover of that last episode signed by the entire cast. What was that experience like for you?
That was amazing, because if I wasn't in a scene, I kept hearing them all say, these guys that I had been watching for years on TV, the cast, they're filming and they kept saying, supermodel Kim Alexis, supermodel Kim. They must have said it 7 times. And my eyes are in the back going, oh my gosh, like, who wrote this script? I didn't write it, but it was mind blowing. And then Mike Ditka was great, but he had the biggest, beefiest hands. That's what I remember about him. I'm like, oh my gosh, he had like paws.
Make a difference with Free as a Tea. Did you know 1 in 5 Americans will experience a mental health challenge every year? Free as a Tea is giving the gift of good. For every t-shirt purchased, $5 will be donated to the Mental Health Coalition to support mental health resources for the millions of people who need them. Plus, for every purchase, 1 shirt is donated to someone in need. Free your mind and shop with a cause. Buy one, give one for $45 and learn more about us and our mission at freeasatea.com or click the link in the show notes. Make a difference, 1 tea at a time. Happy tea time.
The importance of health to you, it's also important to me. In 1995, you're the spokesperson for Alpine Lace's low-fat cheese products. You've completed many marathons. You have a passion for fitness. You're an athlete. Where does the importance of health and fitness come in for you?
Well, my mission statement is to teach women that true beauty and health come from within, literally to inspire others to do better. So to me, prevention and taking care of yourself before something happens is way more important than, oh, heck, what do I do now that I'm ill or now that I'm not doing well? So that's why I'm so angry that my knee's bad. I had a dog clip me, a big, huge dog at the dog park. Came from behind, and he must have been like 120 pounds of meat. And he hit my knee and it tore the meniscus. And then I have a 140-pound dog, and he was playing and coming at me. And you know, when you zig and then they zig the same way, he clipped my knee again. So I don't know. It's an injury. I don't want to have knee replacements. So now I'm like looking, okay, what are the healthiest things I can do? And how can I? So my mindset has always been, and it probably came from the pharmacy. I would have in pharmacy transitioned into more natural medicine at some point if I had never modeled. So I just love learning about how to keep healthy and what you can do to prevent things. And I'm a big person in getting rid of toxins. And so I'm always figuring, I don't want to know what a product does for me, which is what the advertising agency wants you to know. You buy products normally for what they do for you. I want to know what the product does to you. So you're getting sunscreen, SPF 50. What does that mean? What is the SPF? Right. I mean, there's cancerous ingredients that the FDA is not approved in certain sunblocks and sunscreens. So, and they work chemically to systematically go in your system, in your skin, to change the chemicals in your skin. Some of them, the natural ones, work topically. So I'm a big believer in asking the question, what products do to you, not what they do for you.
You are singing my song. I tell my family all the time, they're like, why aren't you using this sunscreen? I'm like, because that sunscreen will give you cancer quicker than not using sunscreen. And they look at me like I'm crazy. But I'm like, because as of you, I study this stuff. I'm like, do you even know what's in that? 99% of America has no idea what's in things. They just buy it and they use it based on somebody else told them to use it, or they look at a label going, that's what I want, so I'll buy it, or by price, and they don't even, they have no clue what they're actually consuming or putting on or in their bodies.
Yes. Yeah. Same with like dryer sheets or air fresheners or
cooking sprays.
Yes. Yep. And then they breathe it and cough. I'm like, oh no.
Right. You're also an author. You did a book called The Model for a Better Future, and a fiction book, Beauty to Die For, along with 5 ebooks. Going back to the first book, A Model for Better Future, and I'm going to put a link to these in the show notes for all my listeners.
The Model for a Better Future, really, it was by Thomas Nelson, which is a Christian publishing house. So it was my faith journey and making wise choices and what choices do to your life and consequences and things a lot of these young kids don't think about.
Agree. Speaking of your faith, in 1983, your nanny turned you to the faith that you have in your life today. Tell my listeners about how that process happened.
So as I said, I was working for Good Morning America. So weekly with a child, I had to go up and back to New York City. So I had an apartment in New York City and I lived in North Florida. And so I put an ad in the paper in Florida thinking it would be better to get easier and safer to get someone instead of from New York City. So a young girl showed up and she says, hi. And I literally was like interviewing, right? So she says, hi, my name is Ann Brown. My bags are packed in the car. God told me I'm supposed to work for you. And I'm like, what? What do you mean God spoke to you? I thought he just made the Bible and then that was it. Like he spoke, made the Bible, and we're done. And so I was so intrigued that I decided to hire her. And she and I went to New York City weekly, and she would be watching my kids, and she'd go up to bums on the street and say, praise God, Jesus loves you. And I'd be like, shh, they're not people. I mean, like, I literally kind of thought that they were, don't talk to them. They're not people, you know, they're all crazy. And my mind was bad. I mean, they were God's creation, and I was not thinking of it that way. So I'm still not necessarily good at talking to certain people on the street, but she just had this love for people that was so infectious that finally, in this peace, that finally I said, whatever it is, I've got to have it. So she led me to know the Lord. And I'd grown up at 17 in high school. I was an elder of my church. They wanted a young opinion. So they hired me, or not hired, but I was voted in as an elder of my church. So I thought that I had everything all set, that I was fine. And seeing her and realizing the life she led was so much more peaceful and graceful and filled with just God's love, that I had to have that.
Still have connections with her today?
I sent her a Christmas card. I keep in touch. Yeah.
That's good. Have you, or were you ever questioned then of being a sex symbol and then having faith at the same time?
Probably not to my face.
Okay.
I kind of been known to want to punch people, which I never knew I had until I had 3 sons. I kind of am no nonsense. So I don't know. I guess people are gracious and may say things behind my back, but they wouldn't say them in front of my back. I tried to do anything that was a bit sexy, although my husband looks at old pictures. He's like, wow, look at that look, that face. That's, that was a sexy look. And I'm like, really? You guys are like all pigs, like all men are animals, easily swayed. So it wasn't intentional of leading men on. That's not why I was put here on earth. So I didn't do it intentionally. I tried to stay athletic and true to myself, but it's all perception. Some people can perceive things one way. And
I was just curious if you were questioned or ever punished for having that.
I'm sure everyone gets through things, and there's, as I said, consequences for everything we do. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. You've talked about your mission before of inspiring healthy living across the world and to empower women to believe that the true beauty and health comes from within. Where does this come from you? Where did this mission statement come from, Kim Alexis, that you wanted to put it out there?
I don't know. It literally took me a while to figure out what made me tick. I've done those personality tests. I come back as a teacher, which I would never have thought of. And to me, I think of classroom and having to put up with young screaming children to be a teacher. But there are also teachers who are on social media. There are teachers who are in the public eye. And so I love revealing or teaching people what I've learned and trying to encourage and inspire them to live healthier lives. It's just kind of in my DNA. I don't know where it came from, but naming it took a while to realize that my mission is clean living in all aspects of life.
What kind of response have you gotten? You gotten big response?
Well, I guess that depends. Yeah. I mean, I don't have huge crowds lining up at my door, but if I post something on social media, I do have a lot of, oh, I hadn't thought of that before. Oh my gosh, I'm going to go get that. So I'm trying to just highlight different things or different ways of thinking and looking about how we buy things and how we live our lives and how we conduct ourselves.
Sometimes that question that I'm not a fan of is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm not a fan of that question. I think it sets people up to think one way in a tunnel. But if you look back 5 years from today, are you where you thought you'd be?
That's a good question. No, I have been probably put in the back burner for quite a while. And it's not until recently that I felt like it was time to come out and start using my voice again. I've kind of been in a neutral position for quite a bit after I raised all my kids and I was empty nest, and I just wasn't in a good spot, and I went through a divorce. And so I realized that I had to be healthy and strong inside and needed to work on me before I could help others. So I feel like I've gotten to that point now. And so I am venturing out and have a PR agency that I work with, and we're trying to make a bigger message to encourage and inspire other people to live healthier.
Is that happy, scary, exciting for you? What's the feelings?
Oh, no, it's great. But I think, I work with I do a lot of celebrity charity events, a lot of golf events. And you can hear the guys talk, and they've got either a Hall of Fame label on them, or they've got an alumni group, or they've got a team that they can rely on. Models had nothing. We were left on our own to restart a business or to just get married and give up. So nobody really takes care of models once they're out of the business. There's no team, there's no support group, there's no let's get the girls together. We have no label. We don't get more money because we're in the Hall of Fame, and people aren't knocking on our doors wanting an old model. They don't mind old athletes, but it's harder for models. So it's been an interesting road, paving and not scratching my way through, but just really rebuilding and rebranding and having that voice again, because I have something to offer, and I'm relevant. And people think differently for men as they age than they do for women. People want women to stay young and beautiful, and men are allowed to get craggy, and it just gives them character. Women aren't allowed to have craggy character.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, you're pretty much hitting it spot on. There's not really a lot to rebuke there. I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head, which made me think of something as you were talking about that. Not just for yourself, but I guess for all models. What is the struggle, or how do they let people know that there's so much more than just their good looks that they see in a picture?
Yeah, I think social media has been a good platform, but I find a lot of my contemporaries are relying just on old pictures of this is who I was. I don't mind putting old pictures up because it's fun and brings back memories for many people. There's a lot of good feedback, but it's also, this is who I am now, and this is what I have to say now. And I'm not sure if a lot of the other women want to go through that. I have girlfriends that were in the business. Some are realtors and some are off doing, one's an interior decorator. So they're off doing different things, and they're good at it, and which is fine. I didn't ever get any other degree in anything else. I just have the degree of hard knocks, as I call it. Although I am studying now for my associate's degree in theology. So finally, after 40 some years, I'm back studying and back in school.
Listeners, go to KimAlexis.com. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for you to go to her webpage and check it out. And please do yourself a favor, spend some time and go through it. It's a great website. Kim's a great person, has a lot of stuff to offer. I want to end the interview with this question to you is, with what you're doing now, what do you hope to do with that in the future?
I hope to build a bigger platform so that I can influence and encourage other women around the world, just to have a bigger platform and a bigger audience.
And hopefully that you have touched somebody through what we've just talked about today. Kim, thank you so much for your time. I'm sorry to hear that you have a torn meniscus. I hope that somehow we could reverse that.
I know.
Get you back moving.
I don't want to be benched.
I'll bet you do not. It's not fun, especially as somebody like me, and I can relate to you. When you're used to being active and running, if you get benched, it's terrible. Like when I have a day off, I feel terrible. Like I want to go do something, but I know the body needs recovery. But those are the days I feel the worst, when I have a day off from doing stuff. So
yeah. And I'm sitting here, I was waiting to go on the air with you, and I'm reading Runner's World magazine. I'm like, why? Why am I doing that to myself?
Kim, I hope you have a great Christmas and a happy New Year. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Listeners, go to the show notes and make sure you follow me on Instagram at Before the Lights Podcast. And do me a favor. It's going to take you 30 seconds out of your day to rate, review, and follow the show. It'll help me grow it immensely. And I will thank you tremendously for that. That's all for this episode of Before the Lights. I'm Tommy Canale. And until next time, everybody, I salute a chin chin.